welcome. Check It Out with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Steve Wu, who is a co-founder of VeloCloud, part of VMware now. And Steve, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be on your show, Jessica. Pleased to meet you.
Yes, I am so happy that you're on the show to talk about the innovation in the SD-WAN space and also sharing your entrepreneurial journey, how you started, and your focus, I know right now, is managing the product team and the technical solution for the service provider in particular. I wanted to get your viewpoints on what's happening in the marketplace.
Great. Okay. So it's been a journey. And actually we sell both to enterprise customers as well as to service providers. I think, as you mentioned, it's been very unique in terms of us selling and creating SD-WAN solution for providers. And the way we did this is first we laid the groundwork, right? So we created the right product for service providers, right? This was from day one. It was not an afterthought. Lately, a lot of other vendors have pivoted to just try to get providers to sell the enterprise product, but we designed ours to support this vision of being a service, right? Mm-hmm. So networking as a service to the customer as much as possible. What that meant is we made it multi-tenant from the beginning, virtual and carrier grade scalable, also with multi-tier management. What that meant was we had an enterprise portal, but also on the other end, a provider level operator portal, and actually in between a partner portal to help manage the customer network. So, and we did this even before we shipped our first device when people said, well, why don't you just build a single device CLI GUI? And then also zero touch deployment, which makes it easy to deploy. So this was key in building the right product. Second, we actually went after enterprise, right? So from a business point of view, we thought there was opportunity in both enterprise and provider. And also there's a long adoption cycle normally by providers, so we didn't want to risk the company just waiting for providers to adopt what's now called SD-WAN. But as importantly, I just proved that we had the right solution for enterprises, that there was an enterprise demand for this. So it wasn't even called SD-WAN back then, Jessica.
So you started in 2012 with this idea, and back then you're saying SD-WAN wasn't a big buzzword yet. And you actually had to convince the service providers that this is a good business model. Can you share with us about that part of the journey of convincing service providers and getting them on board?
Right. So as I was saying, to convince them, first we had to have the right product. Secondly, to convince them, instead of us just saying we have software and you can sell it and create a managed SD-WAN and then enterprise will buy it, right? We actually became also a cloud provider ourselves. So we built something that could be deployed by a provider. We went after the enterprise deployment ourselves. We actually became a cloud provider ourselves, right? So we actually host the management. So the orchestrator, the VeloCloud orchestrator, is a SD-WAN management in the cloud. We actually host all these very unique cloud gateways that are in front of all the major software as a service and infrastructure as a service locations. And so this is to actually support the enterprises that we were selling to, and it proved to the SPs that we actually had a viable deployable model. We were not just selling untested software, but we always wanted not just to be our own hosting service, right? We want to get to the hyperscale that we envisioned. We wanted to then have the SPs and the cloud service providers actually deploy this throughout their networks, throughout their cloud data centers as well, because we wanted these SD-WAN gateways to become ubiquitous. And then additional benefit, it turns out, right, since we did it ourselves when we were selling to the providers, and they said, well, how do we do this? We said, well, actually, we've done it ourselves. Right? We've deployed the orchestrators. We've deployed these gateways in 30 locations around the world. We were able to train them as well. And this evolved into what we call today our Ready, Set, Go program, where we can actually help a provider who wants to launch and manage SD-WAN service to create a service, deploy, train all their staff, and then even help them market and generate demand from enterprise customers.
I remember early on when SD-WAN came out, there was this sense of, is it a competition with selling MPLS if you put SD-WAN in, right? So I think that was a concern from the folks who were making a lot of money on MPLS and not wanting to lose that revenue.
Yes, absolutely. And then for the audience, right, the companies typically have the enterprise companies typically would buy private networks or these MPLS backbones. Right, they were high quality. They came with service level agreements, but they were rather expensive, and therefore also the bandwidth was limited. But as I said, ultimately, by going after the enterprises ourselves, we actually created the demand for this better approach, right? And then the SPs could either offer it, right, or start to lose enterprise customers that might say, okay, if you're not going to offer me the solution, I'm going to do it myself. So that was important as well. Or another service provider would choose to adopt it first and be take the first mover advantage, right? So yes, that was absolutely a concern by these providers. So in fact, what we needed was the first early provider adopter.
Mm-hmm.
We found our initial killer use case because another unique thing about our solution is we can do unique application performance over any transport, right, including just broadband, wired, wireless. So the killer initial use case was hosted voice over IP. And so the irony is for hosted voice, right, companies that might not want to continue to manage a voice infrastructure on premise would go to a hosted voice provider, but actually they would be required to rebuild a private network or private circuits to the cloud to get this quality. But that negated a lot of the advantage of going to a cloud voice service. So the UC as a unified communications vendors, right, their sales team realized that was really limiting the opportunities and time to revenue as well. So we got our first big win with a UCaaS provider, with a retail customer whose business relied on reliable voice calls to thousands of branch sites. So they needed the reliability, they needed better quality. And they found it when hosted voice was combined with our SD-WAN solution. And in fact, that the customer ended up requiring all 4 of their providers to adopt the VeloCloud SD-WAN service. So we were off and running on the UC as a service segment.
What do you see as the current challenge that they're facing?
So the current challenge is and again, I think let's talk about the telcos. There still is a transformation that SD-WAN is driving in terms of, right, more applications are moving to the cloud. There's more applications being used, right? So the digital transformation of industry is driving more and more application traffic. And this traffic is not going back to the traditional enterprise data center. So how do you give them more bandwidth, yet with the same quality, yet it has to go over the internet to cloud destinations? That is the challenge. In fact, that's what we had the vision from the very start, was that there was going to be this transformation of compute and applications moving to the cloud. Therefore, also the traditional private network that only took traffic to the enterprise data center would also not be optimal, but you still needed a business grade network that could be managed and have the performance and reliability going to the cloud. So that was a challenge that continues. That transformation has only continued to accelerate over the last few years. So the challenge for telcos is how do I stay a part of it? How do I stay relevant in this transformation?
Okay, Steve. I want to ask about your entrepreneur experience and what lessons learned that you would like to share. I know a lot of people out there have great ideas and they're trying to execute. So you had come up with this vision from the beginning, and then you had to find partners to team up and make it a reality. Can you share that part with us? Your
Yeah,
journey?
so a couple of bits. So my journey started when I was asked to turn around a small cloud managed branch VPN company, a little startup. So I joined them, and actually I saw that stage, the potential and interest in having a cloud managed solution. There was actually interest from very large customers who were seeking an alternative to Cisco, which was a very expensive and complex do-it-yourself solution, or basically turning everything over to a service provider at that time and losing any control visibility. So there was some search that maybe a cloud-based solution would be sort of the magic solution.
Right, the benefits of both. Yes.
Right. So the benefits of both. You want a combination, which is what we've built into our product, of saying you can outsource what you want. You can have a service provider do some of the heavy lifting, but you still have the full control because you have a cloud-based portal, and it supports your migration to the cloud. So one was recognizing this trend. Part of that was then firmly having the conviction to just drive it through. And then I tried to do this at 2 previous startups, but they were sort of not ready. I tried to do this at another appliance-based company, and they were not really ready to adopt to a full cloud model. So having the conviction to stick with it, that the trend will change and actually start building. So it takes a while to build the product. And so that's our advantage, is we built it. We had the conviction. By the time the need was there and the dynamics changed, we were ready with a solution. All our competitors were caught sort of flat-footed and trying to catch up.
And how did you finance this, Steve? I mean, was it all out of pocket, or did you have VCs?
So an interesting part of the story is the initial partners I went with. I thought might be co-founders, but they had just come out of another company they had sold to Juniper, and they wanted to actually start an incubator, a venture. Basically, think of it as a venture fund. So the initial 6 months of going to coffee shops was actually to drive interest in both VeloCloud and in this fund, to create this fund so that VeloCloud could be the first company in its portfolio. So that was sort of starting 2 things at the same time. I think to your earlier question, a key part of starting a company is seeing the vision and having the conviction. I think really very important is the storytelling. Right? So being able to tell the story to convince the partners, investors, to bring my other co-founders on board. So this venture fund became something called the Fabric, and I brought on my 2 co-founders and then the initial team as well. And then I think the last key element is just hiring the absolute best people. So we spent a lot of time in selecting sort of the right initial core team.
Now, as head of product management, what is your daily activity like working from home, given the situation everyone's in?
Yeah, that's so fortunately and we have to figure out how to help the rest of the world. Fortunately, being in the tech industry, right, a lot of what we can do is online, so a little less convenient, but we can carry on as well. And one of the things that we are doing, and we are absolutely fortunate and happy we can do this, is to actually help other companies, in fact, healthcare providers in this sort of very sad, dire time, to actually transform and enable their healthcare workers to still work from home, and these other critical industries to actually transform and get their employees to easily work from home. So our SD-WAN solution absolutely can help in that respect, and we're doing everything we can to help on that front.
So do you see an increase in demand for, of course, network services now that a lot of people are just doing things from home? Like, for example, kids are doing homework at home, a lot of homeschooling, right? So not only workers are working from home, but kids are now studying at home. And a lot of companies are actually suffering because there are just no more going out to the dining or vacation anymore. But on the network side, the collaboration technology side, you see a huge demand in that area.
Right. No, absolutely. So the SD-WAN solution has always had a lot of different use cases, right? The remote sales offices, remote branch offices, transportation and logistics, shipping, manufacturing, also work from home, right? So work from home call centers has always been a very good use case for us as more and more companies, even before this crisis, right, were decentralizing their call centers and turning them into virtual call centers with employees around the world, as well as disaster recovery use cases, because one of the key things of SD-WAN is you can use multiple different circuits very, very easily. So if your fixed private circuit goes down or you can't get access to one and you need to stand up a remote kiosk in a tent with multiple LTE circuits, you can easily do that. So these two use cases of work from home and disaster recovery, unfortunately, we see the demand for that is increasing and where it's really critical in terms of some of these emergency services. We're glad we can provide the right solution for that type of urgent deployment.
Great. Well, last question for you. Where do you see this SD-WAN shifting? I mean, I'm hearing like it's no longer be called SD-WAN because it's just going to be WAN, right? It's just become software-defined network is the norm. And so it's just all one umbrella of the new evolved network.
Right. So the shift is it's becoming, right, if you look at all the industry studies, the predictions are basically within several more years, basically most enterprises and service providers will adopt this as a way of building enterprise networks. I think, as I mentioned, the absolute key is it supports the migration of workloads to the cloud. Mm-hmm. So that trend is continuing where we now even see companies shutting down their last physical data centers. And then there's even a new evolution of the deployment of security called SASE, and Secure Access Service Edge, which says now as you're moving your workloads to the cloud, even your security stack should move mostly to the cloud as well. And our SD-WAN platform is a perfect platform because we have sort of the thin SD-WAN edge on the on-premise branch, work from home, manufacturing site, but then the cloud gateway is really at all the cloud destinations, whether it's your software as a service, your infrastructure as a service, or your cloud security stack as well. So really the evolution is just continuing, but accelerating in this move to the cloud and the move of applications to the cloud as well. Excellent.
Well, it's been great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about the SD-WAN space and the entrepreneurial journey to creating VeloCloud to such a big name now.
Thank you, Jessica.
There you have it. Check it out with Jessica Lee, Steve Wu, co-founder of VeloCloud.